That used to be Road 90, which was the main highway in Israel. And you can see what is the situation now. Now there is no way to use it.
And this was only 5 years ago.
Yeah.
The Dead Sea, once full of water, has been drying up for years.
The lowest place on earth, the Dead Sea, is slipping away.
This is the promised land by God to the Jewish.
As its salty waters shrink, something strange has appeared from its depths. Covered in thick salt, an ancient structure is slowly being revealed. The markings on it are unfamiliar, and no one knows where it came from. The air around it feels heavy, as if it's guarding an old secret. So, join us as we explore the great mystery that has emerged since the Dead Sea dried up.
The composition of the water is very complicated. It's not similar to any other seawater on Earth. Every time that we are working with the Dead Sea, we have many surprises.
How this extraordinary place was discovered. There exists a place so unique and mysterious that it has fascinated people for thousands of years. Imagine a vast, still body of water where life just doesn't seem to belong. Fish can't survive, plants don't grow, and the air smells of something strange and ancient. This place is called the Dead Sea, and its name has been passed down through many languages and cultures, each one adding its own twist to the mystery. Long ago, people in the area around this strange sea started noticing how nothing lived in it. The water was different from any other, so salty that it made everything else seem dry. And from these observations, they gave it a name, the Dead Sea. But the name didn't come out of nowhere. It was inspired by an Arabic term, which had come from even older Greek and Latin names. All these names pointed to one eerie fact. This sea, with its shimmering waters, was barren of life. No fish, no plants, nothing could call it home. However, that wasn't the only name this mysterious sea went by. In English, people also called it the Salt Sea. The story of this name is a little different. You see, this sea's waters aren't just any kind of salty. They are so packed with salt that it makes the ocean feel almost sweet by comparison.
That's a little salty.
But here's where it gets even more interesting. Some people called it the Lake of Sodom, connecting it to an ancient and tragic tale from the Bible. It was said that the cities of Sodom and Gomorrah were destroyed near these shores, and that's how the sea earned this haunting title. And in another twist, the ancient Greeks and Romans referred to it as Lake Asphaltites, because, from time to time, chunks of black asphalt would bubble up to the surface, adding to the sea's otherworldly feel. In Hebrew literature, it's sometimes called the Sea of Death, or the Sea of Salt. Both names fit perfectly with the sea's character. Yet, there's something poetic about how different cultures saw this same strange place, but gave it their own name, adding a new layer to its mystery. The Arabic name, Al-Bahr al-Mayit, simply means Dead Sea. And, like the other names, it's a reminder that this is no ordinary body of water. Now, let's take a step back and imagine the place from a wider perspective. A unique geography. The Dead Sea is nestled in one of the most unique and ancient landscapes on Earth. On one side, you have the country of Jordan, and on the other, the West Bank and Israel. But the most fascinating part? The Dead Sea isn't connected to any rivers or oceans. It's what geographers call an endorheic lake. This means that once water enters the Dead Sea, it stays there. No river or stream carries the water away. It's trapped, with nowhere to go. The Dead Sea lies in the Jordan Rift Valley, a place shaped by powerful forces deep within the earth. The land here is pulled and twisted by tectonic plates, the African plate, and the Arabian Plate rubbing against each other. This constant movement has created cracks and faults that run for miles, right under the Dead Sea. This same force stretches all the way from Turkey to the Red Sea, carving out valleys and mountains, making the Dead Sea not only a geographical marvel, but a geological one too. Water feeds into the Dead Sea from different sources, though they're not as grand as one might expect. The Jordan River, perhaps the most famous, enters from the north. Streams like the Arava from the south, and smaller rivers from Israel, the West Bank, and Jordan also bring their waters to this ancient sea. These rivers, some flowing year-round and others only during rainy seasons, all end up in the same place. But they don't stay for long. Once they arrive, the relentless heat of the region works its magic, evaporating the water and leaving behind more salt. Speaking of heat, the climate around the Dead Sea is something out of a desert fairy tale. Picture this. During the summer, the temperature often soars above 100 degrees Fahrenheit. The air is so dry it feels like you're standing in an oven. Yet, even in the winter, the temperatures rarely drop below a comfortable 70 degrees. But there's something even more bizarre about this region. Due to its location, being the lowest point on Earth, the air pressure is higher, meaning there's more oxygen in the air.
Fact is that in the Dead Sea area, you have 6 to 8% more oxygen.
Really?
This might not sound like much, but it makes a difference. And people have long believed that the air around the Dead Sea can actually have healing properties.
You're flowing, it feels wonderful.
But let's go back in time, way before any cities or people were living near the Dead Sea. Imagine a landscape covered in water, not just from the Dead Sea, but from the Mediterranean Sea too. This was during a period millions of years ago, and the area we now call the Dead Sea was part of a massive lagoon known as the Sodom Lagoon. This lagoon was a long, crooked bay that stretched from the Sea of Galilee all the way down past where the Dead Sea ends today. Over time, as the Earth's climate and tectonic plates shifted, the lagoon began to retreat, eventually leaving behind the smaller, saltier body of water we now call the Dead Sea. The retreating waters left something behind, huge deposits of salt. These salt deposits are so thick and so deep that in some places they reach nearly a mile down into the earth. Over time, these deposits were pushed upward, creating strange formations like Mount Sodom, a mountain made almost entirely of salt. As the centuries passed, the Dead Sea went through periods of expansion and contraction, growing larger when the climate was wet and shrinking during dry spells. At one point, around 70,000 years ago, the Dead Sea was up to 800 feet higher than it is today, covering much more land. But as the climate dried out, the sea retreated, becoming saltier and leaving behind the landscape we recognize today. Now, what's it like to actually stand by the Dead Sea? Imagine looking out over the water and seeing nothing but a flat, calm surface shimmering in the heat. But the water isn't the only thing that's strange here. The ground beneath your feet is covered in salt, and there are places where thick layers of minerals have built up into bizarre shapes. Walk closer to the shore, and you might stumble upon pools of quicksand or strange bubbling springs, places where the earth seems to be alive with the movement of water and salt. One of the most incredible things about the Dead Sea is how it has continued to change over the years. Today, the water level is dropping faster than ever before. Due to water being diverted from the Jordan River for irrigation and other uses, the Dead Sea has lost more than a third of its surface area in just the last 50 years. And with climate change making the region even drier, scientists worry that the Dead Sea might one day shrink to a fraction of its current size, or even disappear entirely. But the Dead Sea isn't just famous for its salt and strange geography.
We are actually walking right now on an island of salt in the middle of the Dead Sea.
The fascinating theories. For thousands of years, people have believed that its waters hold special powers. The high salt content allows anyone to float effortlessly on the surface, and many travelers have marveled at the feeling of being suspended in the water. The minerals in the water are also thought to have healing properties, and people from all over the world come to bathe in the sea, hoping to cure their ailments or just to experience the rejuvenating effects. Yet, despite all the myths and legends surrounding the Dead Sea, it remains one of the most scientifically intriguing places on Earth. Its chemistry is unlike any other body of water. The water is made up of a unique mixture of minerals, including high concentrations of magnesium, potassium, and calcium, which give it its therapeutic reputation. But there's more to the story than just floating and healing. The Dead Sea is also known for its ability to produce asphalt, a black, tar-like substance that has been used by humans for thousands of years. In fact, the ancient Egyptians used asphalt from the Dead Sea in their mummification process, a practice that helped preserve bodies for the afterlife. However, there's more to these theories than you think. The Dead Sea is a sea where people come for more than just swimming or sightseeing. They come for healing. Yes, you heard that right, healing. The Dead Sea isn't just a natural wonder, but it's also famous for its potential health benefits, making it a kind of natural hospital. Now, why would people believe that the sea could help them feel better? Well, it's not just any sea. The Dead Sea is packed with minerals that you won't find in most other places. These minerals are thought to have magical effects on the body. But there's more to this story, so let's break it down. The area around the Dead Sea has something very special in the air. Literally. The air here is filled with fewer allergens like pollen, which can make breathing easier for many people, especially those with allergies or asthma. The sun also shines a little differently here. The UV rays are less harmful because of the low elevation, meaning people can soak up the sun without as much risk of getting sunburned. And at such a low point on Earth, the atmospheric pressure is higher, which some say helps people with breathing problems like cystic fibrosis. Let's not forget about the mud. Yes, the famous Dead Sea mud. People from all over the world visit to cover themselves in this dark, mineral-rich mud, believing it can soothe their skin and even ease joint pain. Imagine taking a spa day, but instead of fancy oils and lotions, you're using mud from the sea. Sounds strange, but many believe it works. Now, what are some of the specific treatments that people come here for? One of the most popular is called climatotherapy. This basically means using the weather and natural environment to heal. In the Dead Sea region, the unique combination of warm temperatures, humidity, and high air pressure is thought to have therapeutic effects. Another treatment is heliotherapy, which uses the sun's rays to treat conditions like psoriasis. You see, the sun's rays are softer here, and people can sunbathe for longer periods without getting burned. This helps those with skin problems because they can enjoy more time in the sun without damaging their skin. It's almost like nature's way of providing a safe, natural light therapy. Then there's thalassotherapy, where people bathe in the salty waters of the Dead Sea itself. The idea is that the water's high mineral content can improve circulation, detoxify the body, and even ease muscle pain. Imagine floating in water so salty that you can't sink, feeling the minerals soak into your skin while the warm sun shines gently above you. It's no wonder people flock here for these natural treatments. But does all this really work? Some studies suggest it does. For example, patients with rhinosinusitis have found relief by using Dead Sea saline to clear their nasal passages. And in one study, people with osteoarthritis those achy knees and joints that come with aging, felt better after applying mud packs from the Dead Sea. So, while doctors might say we need more research to fully prove the benefits, many visitors swear by the healing powers of this place. The Dead Sea has become more than just a tourist destination. It's a haven for those seeking relief from various health conditions. But what about life in this incredibly salty water? Surely, with all that salt, nothing could survive, right? Well, mostly. That's why it's called the Dead Sea after all, because large aquatic life, like fish, can't live in these waters. But the story doesn't end there. Even in such harsh conditions, life finds a way. Small amounts of bacteria and fungi can survive in this extreme environment. During times of heavy rain, when the salt levels drop slightly, the Dead Sea can even spring to life. Sort of. In 1980, after a rainy winter, the normally dark blue water turned red. It wasn't magic, though. Scientists discovered that an alga called Dunaliella had bloomed, and it attracted bacteria that produced a red pigment, causing the sea to change color. But these colorful blooms are rare. Most of the time, the Dead Sea remains as it is, quiet, still, and eerily lifeless, at least to the naked eye. In 2011, a team of scientists made an exciting discovery while scuba diving in the Dead Sea. They found cracks on the sea floor, and through these cracks, fresh and brackish water was flowing in.
It's like Superman's cave. I dive in many places in the world, but this one is one in the world.
Around these cracks, they discovered colonies of bacteria and other tiny organisms living in biofilms, thin layers of microorganisms. It's incredible to think that even in one of the most extreme environments on Earth, life continues to find a way to survive.
It's just fascinating. I mean, as a scientist, it's just white spots or colored spots, but that there are bacteria and it's life forms that have never been looked at.
Now, let's zoom out a bit and talk about the communities around the Dead Sea. Despite its harsh environment, people have settled near its shores for centuries. Places like Ein Gedi, Neve Zohar, and Kalya are small towns and communities where people live and work, while also taking advantage of the natural resources the sea offers. There are nature reserves and even luxurious resorts along the shores, where visitors can enjoy the unique surroundings and try out those famous Dead Sea mud treatments. But how far back does this sea really go? The Dead Sea and the ancient civilization. Imagine standing on the edge of this mysterious sea thousands of years ago. Close by, caves hide dark secrets, and the land around is full of natural tar pits. You can almost hear the echo of ancient footsteps, of people who lived in this region long before the Israelites arrived. In fact, the Hebrew Bible tells us that people lived in caves near the Dead Sea before Israel even existed as a nation. This region wasn't just a backdrop for everyday life. It played a crucial role in the Bible's stories. Now, let's head over to a time when a famous man named Abraham roamed the land. In the book of Genesis, you will find a tale that begins right here, near the southeastern shore of the Dead Sea. This is the story of the doomed cities of Sodom and Gomorrah, two places known for their wickedness. According to the Bible, these cities, along with Admah, Zeboim, and Zoar, were part of what was called the cities of the plain. These places were full of life, but they were destroyed in a fiery punishment from above. However, one city, Zoar, was spared. Why? Because Abraham's nephew, Lot, escaped there, fleeing the destruction that would consume Sodom and Gomorrah. But before these cities met their fate, the Dead Sea wasn't the quiet, lifeless place it is now. Back then, it was known as the Vale of Siddim, a valley filled with tar pits. A valley, alive with bubbling tar, must have seemed eerie, like something out of a dream. And in this very region, King David himself found refuge when he was on the run from King Saul. Hidden near the Dead Sea in a place called En-Gedi, David avoided capture in one of the many caves scattered around the area. But there's more to the story of the Dead Sea. In ancient prophecies, like those found in the books of Ezekiel and Zariah, it's foretold that the Dead Sea will one day come back to life. That's right. These prophets envisioned a future where the sea, once salty and barren, would be healed. They described it becoming fresh, with living waters flowing into it, turning it into a lake teeming with life. Imagine fish swimming where nothing has lived for millennia. It's a vision of transformation, a promise that even the most desolate places can be reborn. Now, let's fast forward to the time of the Greeks and Romans. During this period, a group of people called the Nabateans controlled the Dead Sea. They weren't just any group. They had a monopoly over the region, meaning they were the only ones who could trade the sea's valuable resources, like asphalt, which bubbled up naturally from the depths. The Greeks and Romans also knew about the strange properties of the Dead Sea. In fact, Aristotle himself mentioned a lake in Palestine that was so salty and bitter that nothing could live in it. He even noted how if you soaked clothes in it, the water would clean them. As time passed, different civilizations built fortresses and palaces along the Dead Sea's shores. One of the most famous was Masada, built by King Herod the Great. Masada became a symbol of Jewish resistance when a small group of zealots held out against the Roman army in 70 CE after the destruction of the Second Temple. These brave people fought until 73 CE, when the Romans finally breached their defenses. Instead of being captured, nearly all of Masada's 960 inhabitants took their own lives, choosing death over surrender. The Dead Sea also became home to a group of people known as the Essenes. They settled on the western shore, living a simple life of prayer and study. But what makes the Essenes so famous today is what they left behind: the Dead Sea Scrolls. These ancient manuscripts, discovered in caves near Qumran in the 20th century, include some of the earliest known copies of the Hebrew Bible. It's like the Dead Sea was hiding these treasures for thousands of years, waiting for the right moment to reveal them. Even more incredible, the Dead Sea was connected to the Bible in another way. In the town of En-Gedi, a place often mentioned in ancient Jewish texts, people used a secret recipe to produce a special fragrance made from persimmons. This fragrance was so valuable that it was used in the temple's holy incense, and they also collected something called Sodomite salt from the region, which, while essential for the temple, was said to be dangerous for everyday use. As time marched on, the Dead Sea's reputation for being a place of refuge continued. During the Byzantine period, Greek Orthodox monks fled to the wilderness surrounding the sea to live in isolation. They built monasteries such as St. George in Wadi Kelt and Mar Saba in the Judean desert, seeking peace and spiritual retreats. Their stories of solitude add another layer to the rich history of the region. By the 19th century, scientists and explorers had turned their eyes to the Dead Sea. They were fascinated by its unique environment and began studying its minerals, climate, and mysterious waters. Adventurers like Christopher Costigan, William Lynch, and John McGregor sailed across the Dead Sea, braving its intense salinity to learn its secrets. Lynch, in particular, led a United States expedition in 1848 to survey the region, producing detailed reports on the sea's depth, salinity, and geography. But not all the Dead Sea's stories are so straightforward. In 1868, an explorer discovered something extraordinary: a stone tablet inscribed with what appeared to be ancient text. This was the Moabite stone, found on the plateau east of the Dead Sea. After this discovery, Moses Shapira, an antiquities dealer, presented what he claimed were even more ancient writings, this time on leather strips found near the Dead Sea. The world was thrilled until the writings were declared forgeries, leading to Shapira's tragic end. As we move into the 20th century, the Dead Sea's place in history continues to grow. By the 1920s, people began to see its potential as more than just a historical site, a commercial aspect. The British government granted a concession to the Palestine Potash Company in 1929, which used the sea's minerals to produce potash, a valuable ingredient in fertilizers. Despite the turmoil of the time, this company managed to produce large amounts of potash and bromine, becoming an essential supplier during World War II. But the Dead Sea's riches weren't confined to just one side. On the Jordanian shore, the Arab Potash Company began production in the 1950s, turning the sea's natural resources into valuable products. Today, both Jordan and Israel generate billions of dollars from the minerals of the Dead Sea, producing everything from potash to magnesium metal. The Dead Sea isn't just about industry, though. Tourism has played a huge role in its modern story. On the Israeli side, resorts like Ein Bokek attract visitors from around the world, eager to float in the salty waters and cover themselves in the healing mud. In Jordan, luxury hotels line the shore, offering stunning views of the sea's blue waters. Even Palestinians hope to one day develop tourism on their portion of the Dead Sea's coast. Though political challenges have made that difficult, in recent years, the Dead Sea has become more than just a tourist destination or a site for industry. It's a symbol of the challenges facing our world. The sea has been shrinking rapidly due to the diversion of water from the Jordan River and other environmental factors. Since the 1960s, the water level has dropped dramatically, and with it, the landscape has changed. The appearance of dangerous sinkholes around the shore has made some areas unsafe, and the once vast southern basin of the sea is now mostly dry. As you can see, not everything is perfect in this salty paradise. How the Dead Sea is drying up. Over the years, the Dead Sea has been shrinking dramatically. Since the 1960s, the sea has been losing water at an alarming rate. One major reason is that the Jordan River, which used to feed into the Dead Sea, has been diverted for irrigation and other uses. Without that fresh water flowing in, the Dead Sea has been drying up. Imagine a massive ancient sea slowly disappearing before our eyes. In 1930, the Dead Sea's surface area was 1,050 square kilometers, but by 2021, it had shrunk by about 33%. That's a huge drop. And as the water level continues to fall, something else has been happening. Sinkholes. These sinkholes have been forming around the Dead Sea's shores as fresh water seeps into the ground and dissolves the underground salt layers. When these layers dissolve, the ground collapses, creating massive holes that have swallowed up roads, trees, and even parts of beach resorts. Sinkholes are dangerous, and as more of them appear, they threaten the towns and resorts around the sea. In some areas, entire beaches have been closed off because it's too risky to let people near them. The once peaceful and serene landscape is now dotted with these gaping holes, a reminder that the Dead Sea is not only changing, it's disappearing. With the water levels dropping, people have been looking for solutions. One big idea was to bring water from the Red Sea to the Dead Sea. The plan was called the Red Sea-Dead Sea Water Conveyance, and the idea was to build a pipeline to pump water from the Red Sea, desalinate it for fresh drinking water, and send the leftover brine, salty water, to the Dead Sea to replenish its water levels. In 2013, Israel, Jordan, and the Palestinian Authority even signed an agreement to make this happen. It sounded like a good solution, but by 2021, the project had been abandoned before construction even began. The The future of the Dead Sea remains uncertain. Will it continue to shrink until it's just a memory? Or will efforts to save it succeed? No one can say for sure, but one thing is clear. This unique, salty sea has captured the imagination of people for thousands of years, and it will continue to do so for as long as it exists.